Welcome to the D Shift podcast, where we provide inspiration, motivation, and education to help you transition from the challenges of divorce to discover the freedom and ability to live life on your own terms. Are you ready? Let's get this shift started. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the D Shift. And I am really happy to have a person on the podcast today, Brice Hancock. He is a brave man coming on this podcast to talk to us, but he's to talk about something that's very serious about addiction and how divorce can impact or potentially raise challenges for those who are struggling with addiction or those who are in addiction recovery. So Brice is the CEO and founder of the Mile High Recovery Center in Denver, Colorado. And Brice has a really unique understanding of this because he actually transformed his personal battle with substance abuse into the ability to help and support others on their recovery journey. So Brice, welcome. It's so nice to have you here.
Thanks for having me. It's an honor. You want me to tell my story a little bit here?
Go ahead. Yes, I'm sure. It's always interesting to hear how people got where they are today. So
sure. So I was a late stage alcoholic. I'll just try to sum it up in like a nickel version, which is still probably pretty long. But after college, so after high school, I immediately moved out and became a daily blackout drunk. After college, most of my friends matriculated to regular life, and I did not. I moved to Baltimore, Maryland, and after a few years was addicted to heroin and crack. I then moved to Colorado and just struggled. I drugged the bottom for another 2 decades. And so around 2007, I was a booking agent at the time. I'm a musician. And I was booking my own band, and then I started booking other bands, and then I started booking clubs. And I was booking a club, and I was doing so well that the biggest club in the area in Denver asked me to book for them. And I went there, and then the original guy said, "I need to sell this bar. Do you want to own this bar?" And I said, "Well, yeah, but I don't have any money to buy a bar." And he said, "I'm going to carry the loan for you." And so, holy moly, I'm an alcoholic, and I own a bar. And I didn't think it could get worse because it was really bad. And so it was just straight downhill for 7 years until I was drinking about a half gallon of vodka a day. I would wake up in the morning and I'd have to drink some kind of alcohol before I could even drink water. I was completely physically dependent, and I was in and out of the doctor. And he finally told me, "You're a late stage alcoholic. If you don't quit drinking, I give you a year to live." And I couldn't stop drinking. It took me well over a year to stop. Through much drama and a visit to a psych hospital and outpatient treatment, and I became heavily involved in AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, and got sober. And so 2 years sober, I'm in therapy, and the therapist challenged me. What's your purpose?" she said. And I didn't have an answer. And so I was on this new journey to find my purpose, right? I was a realtor at the time. I'd sold the bar, and I'd gotten divorced from my wife at the time and struggled through that, but stayed sober. And so through this odd series of events, I decided to open, someone said, "We need sober housing." And so I didn't know what it was, but I was going to open a sober house. And so I opened a sober house, and then I opened another sober house, and I was having so much fun, and I had a new career on my hands. And so that turned into 9 sober houses in the city of Denver. And then Denver said, "You can't keep doing this." And so I opened a treatment center. And so here I am, treatment center, 35 employees, 60 beds, residential treatment with all levels of outpatient care, and supportive sober housing in Denver.
wow. Well, what a fascinating story, but what a positive story. I mean, when you're talking a life transformation, you just didn't do something little. You did something massive. That's amazing.
Yeah, it was a big deal because I was literally dying. And I think the only reason that I The only reason I got sober is because I didn't want to die. And I was married, like I said at the time, and she was kind of on board with it. She just wanted me to drink less, but that's not how alcoholism works for me.
Right.
And
Right.
so it was like I had to change everything, and so I did, and it was hard, but it was
Yeah.
worth it.
Yeah. And now you mentioned that you went through the divorce
Yeah.
during your in your sobriety. How or in your recovery, I'm sorry, to sobriety. How hard was that? Because I know that this is an area where you probably see people really struggle. I know some of the clients I work with start questioning, wow, I seem to, they'll say, I think I'm drinking too much right now. Like I hear that. Or they're using sleeping pills in an unhealthy way, or they're weekend warriors doing whatever they're doing with on the drug scene. What do you take, or how were you able to manage all the stress of a divorce and still stay true to yourself?
So my experience, and I see it all the time, where people make their lives much worse going through a divorce, which is a very stressful situation to begin with, right? My experience was that I had to get sober. I felt like if I don't do this, I'm going to die. And I'm not sure she was on board with that because, she didn't sign up for a sober Brice. And so for me, life got real small. You know what I mean? Like my marriage fell apart. I had to sell the bar, and I had a little boy. He was 1.5 at the time, and I had no idea how to be a dad because I was such a terrible alcoholic. And so I'm in this house by myself. We've split up, and it's like, oh my gosh, how do I be a father? And um, fortunately, it was almost easy because it's like when he was hungry, I would feed him. When it was bedtime, I'd put him to bed. When he was bored, I'd entertain him. When he went to the bathroom, I'd change him. And I became other centered. And that was key for me because I was so self centered at the time that taking care of another person, like, kind of get me out of my head.
Right.
And like I said, life got small. It's like next right thing, next right thing. What am I going to do? And I was going to a lot of meetings and I was living on my own. And for me, it was a step up in a lot of ways because I wasn't around, alcohol.
Right. Right. What do you think? Because I know you work with men and women in your treatment centers, in your treatment center. What do you think maybe are some of the indicators that, or some of the triggers maybe that might create more of a challenge to stay sober, or I'm going to throw this one at you too, to recognize that you need some help with your behavior,
Sure.
with regards to substance abuse.
Uh, so I see it a lot. And unfortunately, like going to a treatment center in a divorce, like when our clients come to us and they're getting divorced, it is not seen, unfortunately, positively by the courts, and it can be used against them. It doesn't matter if they're trying to do the right thing. By the time you're here, you've got a problem.
Yeah.
And the person you marry is not the person you're getting divorced from because they're addictive and they're angry and there's all these emotions and there's all these financial things, and they can use it against you, right? And
Sure.
so it's important to like stay aware, like self-awareness, like what it's almost a great excuse to really party too. It's like I'm miserable, and people will kind of, they look at that as almost like self-care, right? Like
Hmm.
you deserve it. I mean, gosh, you're going through all this stuff. So it's important to be aware of what's going on, and it is important that if you can stop or you can manage it or you can control it, to do that, because if you don't, you're going to end up like me. And it's a whole thing what I do. It's a whole change of lifestyle. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah. And you're so right, because first of all, you have to make a ton of decisions in divorce. And if you're hammered out of your tree, you are not making the best decisions. I mean,
No.
you have to have that ability not just to think in the moment, but also think, what do I want? Where do I need to be 5 years from now? What do I need to get out of this divorce to get me there? So I,
Right.
I totally respect all of that. If you are a person who maybe it has some concerns that maybe I'm slipping back into bad behaviors. What, or maybe, like I say, recognizing that maybe I am having, instead of just having a glass of wine, I'm drinking the whole bottle or whatever it may be. What are some of the things other than alcohol consumption or drug use that might be signs that you're having some kind of a problem?
Uh, I mean, I believe we all know the signs, right? Like you're drinking too much, you're drinking through hangovers, you're hungover every day, you're missing work, you're having all these negative consequences, and you continue to do it, right? I mean, that is a good working definition of addiction in and of itself. Is like you're continuing to do it despite the negative consequences.
Right.
I'm a big fan of therapy, and I'm a big fan, even if you're not, a substance abuser, get therapy when you go through this because you need clarity, and it's like it's hard to get clarity from your own brain. And so, and if you go to a professional and they challenge you on your drinking, it behooves you to not fight with them when that happens. Like that's how I was. Everybody knew I was an alcoholic, and as soon as somebody pointed it out, I would fight with them. So I was fighting to stay that way. um, I also believe that going through these kinds of things, when you navigate it, it's important to take responsibility for what's going on. And I've been in the groups as a newly sober person. I've been in outpatient treatment, and there were many people going through divorces, and there's so much blame going on. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's corrosive. It, and I suspect that was going on during the relationship. I suspect that nobody is doing great. Then all of a sudden they're getting divorced, and all of a sudden, holy moly, this substance abuse problem has fallen out of the sky. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think it probably started prior to the divorce.
Right.
And it's like, how long do you want to continue to live like this, right? Like, one day you're going to wake up and it's going to be like, what happened to my life?
Right.
So maybe a divorce could be a catalyst. Like, this could be the time to change. For me, it was. That was the turning point. I was at a crossroads.
Yeah. I think anytime you go through, and I think that's really important for people to think about divorce, is that there is an opportunity to make some big life changes if you want to, especially if your partner was enabling, whatever your substance abuse or addiction or whatever bad behaviors they were engaging or allowing or supporting to continue. Sometimes just getting away from that influence. And I heard you say too that you also changed your career at that point in time too. So that's another big kind of stressor to make those kind of changes.
They say don't make any changes in the first year, and on my whole life, it literally fell apart. But so in retrospect, it's like, she was a drinker. That wasn't good. And I owned a bar. So my life needed to fall apart. Like, I needed a whole new direction, right? And so it's funny how the universe just kind of gives you these things, right? Whether you need it or not, or you want it or not. And that's what I needed to happen. So yeah, I changed everything. I had to get a new career. And it was important because all of a sudden I have child support payments and things like that.
Yeah. Can I ask you, at the time when that was happening, because I've had some things like that happen in my life where I thought, oh crap, why is this happening to me? Like, this is horrible. At the time when it was happening, did it seem like kind of the world was against you, or were you already aware that this was something that needed to happen? What was your...
I had no awareness. It was it's like, one of my favorite expressions is let go or be dragged. And it was like, I didn't like my marriage. I didn't like my job. But when I lost both, I was like, why is this happening to me? And how horrible for this boy to have divorced parents. And in retrospect, I'm so glad that he has two happy parents now, because we get along great, me and her, right? I've been divorced twice in sobriety, and I get along well with her. It's a good relationship now. And so in retrospect, it was like good, at the time. And no, it was devastating at the time. I couldn't see it because I was just like, I don't know, in survival mode in a way,
Yeah. Yeah. And thank you for that. Because I do think sometimes we get that sense of this has to happen. It's it's terrible. I don't want it to happen, but it's got to. But other times we're like, oh no, why? We
Yeah,
just can't see. And then 5 years down the road, we're like, that was really a good thing that happened in my life when that happened.
a great thing. And because
Yeah.
I didn't drink, I didn't use. So if I can stay sober through that, like, it gave me a real sense of like, I've got a real shot, I mean? Like, and then that opened up more doors. Like, what is this all about? Who am I? Who am I as a sober man? Like, what
Right.
am I going to do with the rest of my life?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's just a trip when it's happening, but it's like like I said, you take responsibility, you extract the lessons that are meant to be extracted, and then you move on and you make that adjustment, and hopefully you don't do it again.
Right, right. And and so again, it's such a positive story. I mean, and then what you've done with your life to continue to support other people who are making the same efforts that you made. I think
Yeah.
that's the fantastic part about this. So I get that this became your purpose. I'm guessing through that challenge with that therapist, you identified that this is what you wanted to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've heard that, and I don't know if this is true. I'm not a therapist. Let me just say that up front. I'm an entrepreneur and I'm sober. And so I've heard that men experience depression differently than women. For women, it's about understanding and connection. And for men, it's about purpose. And I believe my therapist, who was a woman and was amazing, I think she knew this guy needs a purpose, right? And so I just went on this quest, like, what am I going to do? Who do I love, right? And I love alcoholics. I love addicts because that's my wound, right? And so that's the area where I can give back. And my mission, because a lot of us will get sober and then become therapists. That's not my thing. And I know that's not my thing, and that's okay. But I'm good at setting things up, and I'm good at attracting the right people. And I attracted some amazing people. And my thing was, I'm going to set something up, and hopefully people will find their own magic the way that I found magic, right?
Right. Yeah. Oh, I love that. I love that. Obviously it comes from your heart. I mean, that's clear. Just in the way you speak about it, it comes from your heart. I do want to touch base a little bit. And I get that you're not a therapist. So you're probably like me. I'm not a therapist or an attorney. So I just help support people kind of in their day-to-day stuff. What about the thought that's out there that, if you've got a partner that's an alcoholic or a child that's an alcoholic, that you have to let them hit rock bottom before they're going to reach out and get help and support. What are your thoughts on that? And is that necessarily the case?
I don't think that's necessarily the case. I'm a parent as well. I have two boys. And, when I was young, I had every expectation, even when I was doing drugs, that I wasn't going to overdose. But kids now on the party scene, fentanyl's around, and it's killing people, and it's killing kids that aren't even addicts, right?
Right.
And so you can't, like, I don't believe you can wait for them to hit bottom. And so I'm a big fan of getting professional help. And there are a lot of professionals, and this is their purpose, is helping you navigate the situations, right? So if one of my sons, God forbid, was using, and I knew they were struggling, I would not wait for them to hit bottom. I would probably do everything I could with professional help.
Sure.
To not enable them, right? To not force my agenda upon them, and to do the right things to raise the bottom, as they say, and get them into recovery. And I would offer them help with recovery, period, right? I'm not
Yeah.
going to let them live in my house. I'm not going to give them $20, all that stuff. But if they want to be in recovery and I can afford it, I will help them.
Yeah. And so I think that that's important, because we have to remember, I think, as parents, that divorce isn't just hard on us. It can be hard on adult children, even your fully grown 40-year-old kids, if you're going through a divorce, can really struggle. And if addiction has been in their past, that that might could be a trigger even for your own children. Or like you say, unfortunately, the worst thing, I mean, I'm old, but when I grew up, the worst thing that you could probably do was smoke pot. I mean, there's other things, but in my community, that was it. And now it's like there's so many things that you even use them once and you have a high rate of potential to be addicted. And then, like you say, there's all these dangerous drugs that are out there now. And everything is mixed with everything now, it seems.
Yeah. Fentanyl's and everything. It's not a joke, And yeah, when I was a kid, smoking pot was really bad too. And then I found out it's really not that bad. Or when I was a kid, it's kind of crazy strong now. But yeah, I mean, I have another kid, and it's a parallel parenting relationship because it's just so unhealthy.
Right.
Just because we're sober doesn't mean we always make great decisions, right? And it's a family disease is what they say,
Right, right. Yeah. And so, I mean, you have shared a lot of information, and your story is, on one hand, I'm sorry that you had to go through all that, but on the other hand, you wouldn't be able to do all this great work that you're doing now if you hadn't experienced that yourself. So thank you for sharing that, Brice. I think that's insightful because, first of all, it's positive that there is recovery, that is potential for anybody if they put their mind and their effort to it, but also that there are services out there. And I know we're almost out of time here, but can you touch a little bit on what is a sober house? Because I'm not sure that's something that everybody might be familiar with.
Sure. So a sober house is a house where you live with other people going through the same thing. It's not covered by insurance. So what happens is somebody will go to treatment and the insurance card in their wallet will cover that. And then they get out of, residential treatment, and oftentimes they will go home right back where their problems are and their triggers are. And they relapse, and then they go back to treatment. And so what they started doing is they moved to a sober house, right? And so I have houses, and they're gender specific, meaning all men or all women. And so let's say I have 10 men in a house, and there's a curfew, and there's some rules, and they all have to clean up, and they live as a community, and they're required to attend some sort of recovery meetings. And if they have a job, great. If they're going to outpatient treatment, great. And we keep them accountable to these things. And they go through, all the things that a newly sober person is going to go through, but they have support and they have a sober place to be. And, that's what it's about. It's the therapeutic value that a sober house has to offer is the vibe, the culture in the house.
Right.
And it's magical. Like, everybody thinks 30 days of treatment is where it happens. That is not where it happens. All that happens there is you get detoxed, assessed, and stabilized. The real magic of recovery happens afterwards. And for me, that's the sober house. And it's not sexy and it's not super profitable, but I'm not in it for that, right? I'm in it for, I just get lit up by watching people get better.
Yeah. Yeah. You can tell the passion comes out in your voice, and it's too bad that insurance doesn't cover that, because it seems if they would pay, of course, we could go on this for hours, but if insurance would pay for some of these proactive things, they could save on the treatment side, which is probably going to be a lot more expensive for them than, supporting somebody in a sober house. So, I guess
it's cheaper, right? But, they're trying to control costs, and their job is to not pay money. And our job as a treatment center is to try to get money to pay for things.
Absolutely.
And they don't consider rent life.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like, you get what you get, right?
Yeah. You sure do. So, Brice, you have covered up, like I said, a range of powerful and positive thoughts and ideas, but also some really practical information. So, of all the things that you've talked about, what do you think is the most important?
I just believe taking responsibility for your life is the most important thing. And, people come to me a lot, and they're like friends, and they'll say, I think I'm struggling with drinking. And I believe they're toying with like, do I need to go to AA or do I need to go to treatment? And it's like, maybe you do, but I would really try to see if you can control it before that happens. Because like I said, this is a whole thing. Don't get me wrong. I'm grateful and I love my life. I almost died. But it's important to try to nip it in the bud on your own if you can. And if you can't, reach out for help. Willpower does not work. The faster you admit you have a disease and a mental illness, the faster you can get around to getting help. And, willpower doesn't work. So reach out for help.
Thank you for that. Brice, if people want to find out more about the Mile High Recovery Center, your center in Denver, or if they just want to maybe read some resources that you've got, what's the best way to reach out to you?
www.milehighrecoverycenter.com. Just give us a call. And if you don't know what level of care you need, we will help you get the level of care that you need. And we can help you navigate the whole process. And it is a confusing, daunting, scary process, but we've been through it. So
And do you? I should have asked this earlier. Do you work with what's your age cutoff? Like, do you work with adolescents or is it adults?
We don't work with adolescents. We work with 18 and up.
Okay.
It generally tends to be, for the most part, I'd say 21 to 30. It seems like that is the meat of what we do. I think those are the people that are struggling the most right now.
Okay.
And so that's what we've been doing. Yeah.
But I'm going to encourage you, if you have somebody that maybe falls outside of those age things, that make a call to some treatment center. And it sounds like, Brice's Mile High Recovery in Denver could be a good resource. I'm sure they can direct you to a different facility or a different organization that could provide the support you're looking for.
100%.
Wonderful. Brice, thank you so much for being here. This has been fantastic. And I know it's going to be helpful and motivating to other people that are dealing with this with themselves or family members. So thank you.
Thank you.
And I'd like to thank everybody for listening into the D Shift. And don't forget to tune in again next Tuesday for our next episode. Thanks for listening and supporting the D Shift podcast. If you would like to attend live trainings by our amazing guests and have a chance to ask questions and get answers from our experts, join the D Shift crew. For more details and to sign up, head on over to www.divorcecoachforwomen and click on the podcast page.